On the 29th of July, Moscow train stations were blown up.
Railroad tracks in ruins?
The railways are on fire. Trains have collapsed.
Unbelievable.
A freight train is burning and the logistics facility has been destroyed. Leningradsky and Paveletsky stations in the capital of Mordor are under attack by the armed forces of Ukraine. Operation Spiderweb continues. Moscow residents are in chaos and a total evacuation is underway.
It's absolute mayhem at Paveletsky station. I called Russian Railways and they said, "We've fixed everything, there are no delays. Come on over." But over there, it's a total crash.
The railway got hit
Whoa!
right by the bridge.
Bada boom! Moscow's trains have been blown up. Hundreds are trapped under the rubble. The platform is filled with smoke. Railway evacuation.
Near Vaigonichi, announcement. Moscow, Volgograd, Moscow, dear passengers.
132 trains have been delayed. Crimea, the Caucasus, the entire southern railway of Russia has come to a halt. People are lying on the floor in panic. No water, it's hot, people are hysterical. Evacuation is starting.
Yeah.
This is just insane.
And this is Sheremetyevo and Vnukovo. 5,000 flights have been cancelled there. Passengers are being given inflatable mattresses to sleep right on the floor.
It feels like after the show The Last Hero, I'm now on the series Lost. We've been flying for 23 hours already, as the board showed. But it's all an illusion that we're still here. Another attempt to finally fly out. This time we're going to make it. I thought there would be fewer people at Sheremetyevo. Apparently, the airport handed out mattresses to those who have been waiting a long time.
There's panic, total collapse. It's impossible to fly out. Hell, heat, stuffiness, shouting, children on the floor, no water. People are sleeping on concrete. A pack of noodles and a bottle for 3 people. That's all they've given out in more than a day. Ukrainian armed forces drones keep attacking Russia, Moscow and St. Petersburg. It's already the 4th day in a row. Let's discuss all this with top analyst Alexander Demchenko right now. Breaking news, friends. The 29th of July and 30th. Railways are under attack by the armed forces of Ukraine. We attacked 5 districts at once. There's a fire at a railway station in the Moscow region. A freight train is burning. The passenger train was urgently evacuated. We are blowing up trains, stations, railway junctions, military equipment, and Russia's arteries. Hell, heat, stuffiness, screams, no water. Collapse in Russia. Meanwhile, at railway stations in Moscow and other regions of Russia, there is collapse, panic, evacuation, and stampedes. 132 trains have been delayed. We are attacking not only military airfields, but also railway junctions, the arteries of Russia. Quiet. Aviation is paralyzed. A hacker attack has crashed Aeroflot's IT infrastructure. 7,000 servers have been destroyed. More than $50 million in losses. And all of this can't be fixed even in half a year. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled. Passengers in Moscow are trapped. Sheremetyevo, Pulkovo, and Zhukovsky airports are paralyzed. Panic, crush, disruption, and even Telegram isn't working. The FSB is jamming communications. And now Trump is setting a new deadline for Russia. This time it's 10 days. The ultimatum is reinforced with threats of sanctions. And all this is happening against the backdrop of a Russian ship entering Estonian waters and new air defense systems being supplied to Ukraine. We are entering a phase of total pressure on the rails, in the sky, and at sea. We'll discuss all of this with top analyst Alexander Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. Hello, everyone.
What do you think about our pressure on the railways and aviation? I suggest we start with the railways, because we've been constantly blowing up railway junctions and military equipment convoys over the past few weeks.
You know, Dasha, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with the tragedy in Kamenskoye, because what happened last night on the 29th is probably a quiet horror. Dnipropetrovsk region, Kamenskoye Maternity Hospital. A strike on the maternity hospital, 1 woman in labor killed. That is already targeting hospital wards. A woman in labor and her unborn child were killed. The girl was 23 years old. A hard, horrific strike on Zaporizhzhia, on the Kolony, dozens killed, dozens wounded. At the time I checked, there were already 17 dead. So what we're talking about is that Putin is once again striking civilians. And he doesn't care about any ultimatums, about anything that's being said. So it's important to say right away, friends, that every single time people from all over the world are watching us, we know this, Dasha and I, please support Kamyanske, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and many, many other Ukrainian cities that suffered last night. This is a heavy loss, and I know that both Zelensky and many others have already reported about it. So please, as for the direct strikes on the railways, I keep saying that Ukraine is disrupting Putin's August offensive. The offensive is supposed to start in a few days in August. They themselves announced. But now you want to see how that will go, because the Ukrainian side, the Ukrainian armed forces are now relentlessly and on a massive scale destroying railway junctions, substations, railways, entire tracks. In the Rostov region, a huge stretch of track has been destroyed. The Rostov region is a crucial area because it is the southern military district of the Russian Federation. Accordingly, a lot of military hubs, equipment, ammunition, supply of food, blood, and everything else you can imagine are concentrated there. Everything goes through Rostov and is delivered from there, especially if we're talking about the Donbas direction for Vladimir Putin. That's why Ukraine is now deliberately striking at railway junction. And the entire railway system, as well as all air connections, are essentially centered on Moscow. All of this indicates that Ukraine is disrupting Putin's plans for not just a successful summer, but now a summer-autumn offensive, since Vladimir Putin, already screwed up the first summer offensive. He threatened so much that he would encircle Sumy, surround Sumy, take Odessa, advance to Kharkiv, move toward Dnipro, and capture Zaporizhia and Kherson. So where is all of that? Where is all of that? He strikes at women in labor, kills pregnant women. How many times has this happened already? For the third time in the past month, Vladimir Putin has struck a maternity hospital. He hits maternity hospitals, struck a clinic in Odessa, tried to kill a large number of people right on the beach. On the sea, people were relaxing therein. He attacked them with his drones, children, women, the elderly, men. In other words, this is out of helplessness, out of impunity, because apparently he thinks, though he's wrong to think so, it was a mistake for him to think this. He was wrong to think that he wouldn't be punished. A response will follow in the coming days. Trump didn't just reduce the ultimatum, he dramatically shortened it from something like 10 or 12 days. There's a certain logic to this, which isn't directly related to playing with the number of days. It's directly connected to Ukraine's and America's and the West's overall readiness to carry out a large-scale special operation on Russian territory. I'm sure that on the 10th, or rather the 11th day, most likely, or maybe the 13th, depending on how Trump counts, but it's clear that the peak will fall between the 6th of August and 8th. There's not much time left to wait, basically a week, friends, maybe a little more. And after that, things will get very heated in Moscow. No one is going to wait for Putin standing in Beijing next to Xi Jinping. Strikes will be carried out when Putin is in Russia, in Moscow, at the decision-making center near the Kremlin, or somewhere at his dacha in his residence, hiding in a bunker or in a portable toilet. But it's obvious that a special operation will take place. In fact, these special operations are already happening. You just mentioned Aeroflot. All the airports have shut down. Aeroflot has shut down the monopolies. No company like Pobeda, with their aging passenger and aircraft fleet, will help. Aeroflot has shut down, and is down for half a year to a year. They should have been working on import substitution. Where is that damn import substitution? There is no import substitution. Are you still using old versions of Windows? Nothing helps? Old software? Yeah. Well, that's it now. The planes aren't taking off. They're not flying. There's no refueling at all. All the passengers are just standing around. The boards aren't working. All the airports are closed. $50 million, Russia is losing $50 million a day from just one air. They're all closed across Russia. Not a single plane, no plane is taking off or landing, nothing. This isn't a contingency plan. This is a total disaster plan, you understand? That's what it's called. By the way, I actually think that in the near future, Putin will kill a second one of his ministers. So expect it in the near future. He's already appointed Nikitin as the new Minister of Transport. Already said that if you have questions about Aeroflot and this whole collapse, you should address them to the new Minister of Transport, to Nikitin. What does that mean? Is next to go out the window? That's it. So get ready. There will be another minister killed in Russia. The second one already. Where is Shoigu? No one knows to this day. He hasn't appeared. He hasn't shown up. Maybe he'll go to North Korea soon, because Putin has forced, today's news came out, Russian children to write letters to Kim Jong-un from kindergarten and school. That's how it is. By official order, write peasants, write and say a big thank you, Comrade Kim, for sending not only our meat, but also your diluted meat to fight against Ukraine and the entire West. And for helping Putin with artillery shells and so on and so forth, next on the list. But the fact that Ukraine will disrupt the offensive, that Ukraine will carry out a special operation, listen, many people say that the operation involving this hacker attack on Aeroflot, and by the way, on the government services website, is being compared by many to the web special operation in terms of its scale, saying that yes, from the perspective of a hacker attack, in this cyber segment, it is comparable. It's clear that web was a strike against military capabilities. But this special operation that was carried out against Aeroflot, this was a direct message to Putin, you see, Dasha, that at any given moment they could cut off communications in the Kremlin, that the Kremlin could be left without power, without communication, without security, without support, without anything, and that Putin could just be quietly taken out somewhere and eliminated without anyone noticing, and nothing will save. That's why he's constantly being evacuated. Many people have already started saying that it wasn't Putin in St. Petersburg, but his double. Greetings to Valery Dmitrievich Solovey, that Putin didn't actually make it there, that it was some kind of stuntman. Remember the story, dreamer, that's what you called me. Now he's a stuntman. Turns out, in his youth, Vladimir Putin worked part-time as a stuntman. Soon we'll be telling stories that Vladimir Putin directed movies instead of Mikhalkov Dance with Iskorids, sang instead of Babkina. You see? Everything is Vladimir Putin. And it's Vladimir Putin who gives birth to children in Russia. And it's Vladimir Putin who baptizes the children. Well, it's definitely Vladimir Putin who buries them. Although, no, it doesn't bury them. Because he sends his dead to Ukraine and claims they are Ukrainian soldiers, when in reality he just doesn't want to spend money on his own soldiers or bury them in his own land. And he doesn't want to hand out extra money left and right to his own people, to his own plebs. That's why he commits such crimes. But the fact that Ukraine will thwart both Putin's August and autumn offensives is 100% certain, and he won't take any Sumy, any Odessa, any Kharkiv, or any Dnipro. The countdown has begun. Skabiva was counting from the 50th day over there. Now, let's do it in fast-track mode. Count it in fast-track mode, 3 days at a time. I want to see what will happen to all these Skabivas when Trump, who is furious, when Trump just loses it and delivers a colossal blow to Russia. Then I'll take a look at the Moscow exchange, at Putin, at Skabiva's face, at Solovyov's face, and at everyone else. What will they do? And 0 hour is approaching the climax. The resolution is drawing near. We are already close. We are on the threshold of major, very major upheavals in Russia. Dasha, very major ones. It's not just that the black swan has arrived. August will be pitch black for Russia. Putin has never seen an August like this before.
Well, yes, our interview is practically at the beginning of August because we'll be meeting on Sunday, which will be August 3rd. So right now, so to speak, is the start of the week before August. And it seems to me that the main question when we talk about Ukraine striking at logistics, at railway hubs, at military airfields, at the Northern Pacific Fleet is whether America and Trump, for example, will take part in this, whether in the form of missiles or some other kind of assistance. In other words, will we actually get today what everyone wrote about JSM and other missiles? Taurus missiles from the Germans, Tomahawks from the Americans. In order to do...
Look, Dasha, Ukraine will get everything. Trump said it very clearly in Britain, having previously reached an agreement with the Europeans. You know what that was about. Everyone says Trump is an idiot. Trump is an idiot, incapable of anything. He's just a businessman. I'd like to be that kind of businessman. Damn. He went to the Middle East and brought back 4 trillion. He went to Scotland with the Europeans, met with them, and brought back 2.5, 3 trillion. Pretty good deals, huh? That's something else. Some idiot, some bankrupt Trump 3 trillion. Where have you ever seen 3 trillion? Can you even imagine what 3 trillion is? Mavrodi, for crying out loud, may he rest in peace, is turning over in his grave here, just collected money by the roomful. But this is $3 trillion. Putin's budget could only dream of that kind of money. Russia has never dreamed of that kind of money and never will. There's going to be a total collapse and catastrophe there soon. The economy there is going to be a mess, and everyone knows it perfectly well, from the finance minister down to the most ordinary bureaucrat. And I'm not even talking about the average person on the streets of Moscow or other Russian cities. But Ukraine will get everything. Ukraine will get anti-missile systems. Trump will close the skies over Ukraine. Trump has no intention of talking to Putin anymore. He made that perfectly clear in front of Stalin. I won't call him anymore and I won't talk to him anymore. I know the answer. That's it. That's why the number of days was reduced. But I still, it's not even that I'm holding out hope. I have a suspicion that the reduction in days didn't just happen for no reason. First, they want to catch Putin in Russia, in Moscow, so that he doesn't fly to China, so that he doesn't have time. Second, they probably want to disrupt his offensive actions. Third, they want to ruin his mood and carry out more than one special operation on Russian territory. What we're seeing now with Aeroflot, multiply that by 10. Just imagine 10 such webs 2.0 like the ones we've seen before. Imagine the Americans are capable of this. Recently, we talked about the fact that a strike was carried out on the command post from which Vladimir Putin was broadcasting. They know where Vladimir Putin is. They know where he's hiding, where and how he moves, which routes he takes, who is with him, what kind of security he has, how it changes, and so on. The security detail, half of his security has been bought off, corrupted, and the security team has long since betrayed Vladimir Putin. Everything completely, with all the details. Him and his inner circle are compromised, and his entourage actually wants him gone. He's even started taking money from his own people. He's already throwing his own ministers out of windows. Ministers are just executors of the will of the oligarchs and the security forces. But Putin is squeezing every oligarch, security forces, and others throwing some out of windows and shooting others himself. Well, so listen, going forward, there's absolutely no bright future for Putin in the near term. A lot of people will say, well, you're just making this up, Dasha. You're only saying this to be supported. But just look, friends, at what's actually happening. So Trump is imposing sanctions. Trump is supplying weapons to Ukraine. Every day, the Russian Federation is constantly losing just tens, hundreds of billions lost by the Russian Federation. And Russia's logistics are being destroyed non-stop. Everything is falling apart in Russia. Houses are just exploding and collapsing for no apparent reason. Just now, in a penal colony, some gas exploded there. And now half the colony is gone, along with the inmates who were being sent to the front. All of this is happening right before our eyes. Do you understand? In St. Petersburg, why wasn't there a parade in St. Petersburg? Where is the Navy parade? Why did he scrap some frigate? Let me explain. Yes, he's afraid. Yes, he doesn't show up and so on. That's why they're blowing up the Bocharov-Rushi residence in Sochi. It's clear. But there's another reason. Dasha, there are no ships. Where are the ships? The cruiser Moskva. Where is the aircraft carrier? They are dismantling now. Admiral Kuznetsov. The first and last aircraft carrier of the Russian Federation. What was the program? What bravado they had? We'll build an entire fleet of aircraft carriers. We'll outdo China and America. We'll catch up and win. So where's the victory? The victory is up their ass, you see. Instead of the double-headed eagle, they should just put a butt there. Excuse me. That's two heads too, Two parts. Just take it and put it there. It's not different from the current coat of arms of the Russian Federation. Because Putin has driven the entire Russian economy and his whole people under the floorboards. And he's sending these people off. And what will Putin do next? So he's got problems with the economy. He doesn't want to raise the ruble, doesn't want to let inflation spiral. He's already strangled Nabiulina to death. She's basically lying in the morgue. Summer strangled Nabiulina and says, lower the rate. He and his security guys. So what is she supposed to do? She wants to live, so she lowers it. But the economy is done for. It's in recession. It's not working. There's collapse everywhere, bankruptcies everywhere, except for military production. So what is he going to do next? He needs to end the war, but he doesn't want to end the war, because he intends to redistribute the flows and give everything to his family and his daughter. I'm sure that right now many people are very skeptical about this, but I think that in the fall we'll see a government reshuffle and maybe even Mishustin's resignation. Very soon it's coming up. There's no need, you see, he doesn't need this circus anymore. He'll appoint his daughter or some friend of his daughter, Katerina Tikhonova, or one of her associates, to the position of prime minister. Why does he need the State Duma? Why does he need ministers? Why does he need propagandists when he has Pasha Zarubin? Why does he need oligarchs when he's got the Kovalchuks? And that's enough. He just doesn't need any of that. He's an old man. He's tired. He's tired of reviewing parades. He's tired of fixing ships. So he gave Patrushev an award, put Patrushev in an inflatable boat, and sent him off somewhere. Everything is inflatable in Russia, after all. Even the nuclear briefcase is probably inflatable too. Just the other day, Gennady Gudkov was telling me, he said, I once had a commander who was in charge of inflatable troops. I said, what do you mean inflatable? He told me, look, obviously he was in charge of the Air Force, but half the planes were inflatable just so the Americans would sit there thinking we had a lot of planes. The whole of Russia is inflated, you see. They try to fool Trump. They try to fool Trump every day, but Trump just isn't getting fooled anymore. Now Medvedev has started to get upset saying, well, now we're going to ignite, this nuclear ash something over the Atlantic. The states will find out what Russia is, will start a war with the states and so on and so forth. But they'll just scatter Medvedev and what's left of him, you see. Whether it's over the Atlantic or anywhere else, Putin doesn't need him either. And Medvedev understands that perfectly well. Putin doesn't need anyone anymore. He just put in someone like Kirill Dmitriev and be satisfied with that. But what can Vladimir Putin do next? I believe that his last major push will be to try to move toward Kaliningrad and use Belarus as a vanguard. I'm certain that he will remove Lukashenko and in the near future stage a coup in Belarus. Not for nothing did Maria Zakharova open her mouth. He will organize a government coup in Belarus soon and try to remove Alexander Lukashenko from power, replacing him with his own lieutenant colonel or colonel. He already has a successor lined up. Putin has a successor operation plan for Lukashenko. These plans exist within the general staff. They're sitting there in drawers. Putin has these plans on his desk. The FSB has these plans. Everything is ready for the elimination of Lukashenko and for a regime change in Belarus. Lukashenko knows this, and I think he will struggle to the very end. And I hope that he will outlast and outweigh Vladimir Putin and this regime, for heaven's sake. You understand? But the fact is, Putin wants to take Belarus, and now he's already, look, a second drone has flown into Lithuanian territory. A Russian German drone has already flown into Vilnius. It was already there. They already shot it down. Today in Belarus, a drone was shot down. Somewhere in Minsk, I think they shot down a drone. Whose drone, I wonder, did they shoot down? Of course, it was Putin's. But why? Because it's necessary to provoke a war. Because it's necessary to drag Lukashenko in. Lukashenko doesn't want to. That's why I think that in the next month there will be an escalation, a climax of the situation. It will reach its peak. Somewhere around August, September, that will be the peak. And then we'll come to another turning point. The only question is a turning point of what, a phase, a stage, or the entire war. That's the most crucial question. But I believe that we are at such a climactic point. The only question is this just another climax, or is it the final climax for Vladimir Putin and his regime?
Friends, please like this video. In the comments, write a few kind words in support of our tandem, Sasha plus Dasha. Dasha plus Sasha. We work several times a week on my YouTube channel, on Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channel. So in the comments, let us know where you're watching us from with your location, and a few warm words in support of the armed forces of Ukraine. What do you think about our tandem? Sasha, when I watched that statement from Trump where he said he was tired of talking to Putin, that he was giving him just 10 or 12 days at most, then in another one of his runs, he went on to declare his love for the Russian people. But then after all, he did say that Trump was dissatisfied with Putin. For me, all these melismas about the Russian people who are killing Ukraine and other nations, and yet he says, as he put it, I love them very much. But honestly, I have no idea what's going on in Trump's head if he allows himself to say things like that. I wanted to ask you, is this going to be the maximum 100% tariffs on secondary buyers, right? China, India, and other countries that purchase energy resources from Russia. Is that the most that will happen in 10 to 12 days?
I don't think that's the maximum. Listen, I think there will be weapons, there will be intelligence, there will be aid, and Europeans will also be buying aid. Listen, what about the 17 Patriot systems that Ukraine will definitely have, since Germany is already supplying 3 or has already supplied them? Is that not enough or what? Before, just try to get anything from Biden, Patriots and everything else. And what about the missiles that are coming now? What are those? Is that not enough? And what about the 100% tariffs against India, Turkey, for example, and countries like Bulgaria, which has become a hub and is transporting a huge amount of sanctioned goods to Turkey by truck, as well as Central Asia and Kazakhstan? Is that not the maximum? 100% tariffs and negotiations so that no Indians do business with Russians. No deals are made at all. And what about cutting Russia's budget by another 3 or 4 trillion rubles? Is that not the maximum either? You see, I don't care who Trump loves, his wife, Elon Musk, or some group of people. I don't care who he loves. What matters to me is what he does. I always look at actions, I look at deeds, and I look at where things are heading. You see, I pay attention to what money is coming in, what weapons are coming in, and so on. Let him declare his love for Putin every day and then hand over missiles to Ukraine and bomb him to hell. You see, he even declared his love to Musk. Where is Musk now? Right now, the head of Roscosmos has come to the US. He's going to negotiate with the director of NASA, and I think will meet with Elon Musk. There's your answer. Putin's negotiator is already in the US, already in Washington. You see, he's already there. They've passed it on through him. Who is our new head of Roscosmos? He's a person close to Ekaterina Tikhonova. Whose interests were being pushed, whose interests were being promoted in the States during those meetings? Kirill Dmitriev there, with his friends, with Lykov, his partner, his business partner. The interests of Roscosmos and that director personally. Look up his last name later. They changed like gloves. Now they're already there. They've already flown out. They're already worried. They don't care about that propagandist Kabiva or about how Solovyov and Dmitry Kizelyov opened their mouths. They don't care about Medvedev's statements. They've already sent negotiators. They're already scared. They're already in a cold sweat. They don't need this. Anyone can say whatever they want. Benediktov can say that the Moscow Exchange or what? The Moscow Exchange hasn't reacted at all. It will react soon enough. Just wait. Can you imagine when the Indians refuse everything, stop buying? The Turks will stop supplying, especially given the problems with Azerbaijan. They'll stop supplying everything to Russia. Sanctioned goods, dual-use goods, non-dual-use goods. Can you even imagine what that will be like? Can you imagine how the bigwigs will howl? He's already got problems. There's a recession. There's a decline. Let me put it in plain, simple terms. Everything in Russia is falling. And now imagine that multiplied by 10, by 20. What will that be like? Isn't that enough or what? Others haven't done that. That's why I think Trump will give weapons to Ukraine. There will be sanctions. Just wait. There will be hellish sanctions imposed by Congress as well. Now Trump will play around a bit and then he'll say, wait, I have another ace up my sleeve. Hold on. Right now we have Congress and the Senate, Graham's hellish sanctions. We'll reach an agreement with the Indians about the 100%. We'll negotiate, but I can't stop them. There will be another 500%. Just wait. It's clear that this isn't meant to last just one day, that there will be a cumulative effect, that this will go on for a long time, and that during this period, Putin will be bombing relentlessly and delivering massive large-scale strikes and so on. That's what he'll be doing. Well, he's already doing that. Look, there were 50 days, now it's been 10 or 12 days, and he still kept striking Odessa, the maternity hospital, Kharkiv, the maternity hospital, and just now he hit the maternity hospital in the Dnipropetrovsk region. It's just horrifying. In Kamiansk, let me remind you, a 23-year-old pregnant woman died. She was just there for observation, probably. And now she's gone. Well, she, a man, and the unborn child. So what? And what? He hasn't done this before? He has. Will he keep doing it? He will. And so right now, the most crucial thing is for America to give Ukraine weapons to help destroy and crush all of Russia's offensive actions, to wipe out everything in the rear. They've carried out more than one special operation with Ukraine, stuffed Ukraine with weapons up to the ears, fully protected the Ukrainian sky, reassured the Europeans, and gave them absolutely any guarantee so that they would hand over Patriots to Ukraine, hand over everything they're supposed to hand over. Because the Europeans are sleeping, the Americans are not. The Americans have decided everything. They said, go ahead. So where is it? The Europeans fell asleep. They said 6 to 8 months. There are no 6 to 8 months. Let's do it now. But the boat is still turning in our favor, Dasha. Unfortunately, against the backdrop of tragedies, these kinds of tragedies every single day, it's terrible. Just terrible. What he's doing. A huge number of people killed at once. In a single day, innocent people, completely innocent people. So, friends, please keep supporting. But the fact is that things will get heated in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, that there will be massive strikes, that these strikes will escalate. Look, there were also drone attacks on St. Petersburg today. He's not even there. And yet, there were still attacks. We're already reaching St. Petersburg. Could anyone have imagined this before Trump? Could anyone have imagined this at the start of the fighting? At the beginning of the full-scale war? Number. The war is evolving, and so is technology. I'm sure that within a year, the Americans will be supplying Ukraine with millions of drones. And then things definitely won't be fun for Russia. And for Putin, along with Russia.
The US delivered nuclear weapons to Britain on a plane with its transponders turned on, which is very important with the transponders on, as Bloomberg reports. According to the publication, the US is showing Russia that it is not reducing its nuclear presence in Europe. It was previously reported that for the first time since 2008, the US has returned its nuclear weapons to Britain. Is this a greeting from Trump to Putin and to the Russian people whom Trump loves?
This is a message to Putin. This is a message to Medvedev. They sent B-class bombs, thermonuclear bombs, nuclear weapons on a military plane. For the first time, as you correctly pointed out, since 2007, 2008 to European territory, he will keep blackmailing Trump with the nuclear umbrella, with nuclear weapons, with his nuclear club. Tactical, strategic. Medvedev is talking about some Prague story. Maybe he wants to distract himself. I don't even know anymore. Some kind of plague has started there again. Kadyrov went there and almost drowned. Shoigu has disappeared. That one shot himself. Starovoyt, or whatever his name was. Medvedev is already telling some story about Prague. Everyone is getting ready, in my opinion. It's not clear, maybe for some kind of total plague, I don't know, maybe for executions or something in the Russian Federation. But this is a response. Because Trump has made it clear that now American nuclear weapons will be in Europe, they'll be in Britain, and if they keep pushing, they'll be in Eastern Europe too, close to the Russian Federation's border. American nuclear bombs, and nothing else will be needed. Just like when they once deployed them in Turkey. Why did the Cuban Missile Crisis happen? When they deployed missiles in Turkey that could reach Moscow, they did it then, and now they deploy them somewhere in Turkey, in Poland, or somewhere else. In Germany, well, maybe not Germany, but they could probably put them in Poland or somewhere else. So what? Will that be fun for you? That's why, yes, transponders, let's just clarify what that is. Maybe a lot of people don't know what that is. It's the device that transmits signals which can be used by intelligence or aviation services to detect what's happening. They sent a signal to Vladimir Putin, that's it. American nuclear weapons in Europe. And now, just notice this. Take Trump, for example. I'm not just talking about that $2.5 to $3 trillion deal. What did Trump do? He said, buy my gas and my oil and my liquefied gas for $750 billion and stop buying Russian gas. That's it. There will be nothing else. And everyone agreed. And all of Europe signed on. All those Orbans, right? The Slovaks and so on. Everyone signed everything. Why is that? Why is that? What about their beloved Vladimir Putin? What about their beloved Russian people? That's how it is. With Nord Stream 2, there's no gas, no electricity, no coal, nothing, no oil. And everything will go to America. And American weapons will go to Europe. But what if it's over 600 billion? And what if American weapons start flowing into Europe? What does that mean? What's the logic here? What does the logic say? It means that what's sitting in Europe will go to Ukraine. Does Putin have the ability to raise the stakes and take part in an arms race? No. He himself came out and said, we're going to cut the budget, we're going to reduce military spending. Why? He doesn't want to get involved in this war. He doesn't have the means. He'll be finished before the arms race is over. He doesn't have the strength or resources, and everyone understands that. He does more posturing, more blackmailing than he actually has real capabilities, you see? He doesn't have any of that. And Trump knows this. And he knows perfectly well that sanctions will hit Putin very hard. They will hit very hard, no matter how much bravado there is in the Kremlin.
Who are you, Trump, to dictate when to start peace negotiations? Medvedev responded to Senator Graham's call for negotiations. American Senator Lindsey Graham commented on Medvedev's post on X about the risk of war between Russia and the US due to secondary sanctions. You and your clients will soon be deeply disappointed. You will also soon see that Joe Biden is no longer president. Sit down at the negotiating table, he wrote. In response, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council stated, everything will end when the objectives of the military operation are achieved. Take care of America first, Grandpa. This was Medvedev's statement. Are we right in understanding that Putin absolutely doesn't care? And through Medvedev, he's basically saying, impose your sanctions, I'll keep waging war.
By the way, a photo of Diana just came in. She was called Diana. She was 7 months pregnant. She was going to have a son. She was killed. Grandpa, listen, maybe he's not addressing Trump. Maybe he's addressing Putin. Maybe Dmitry Anatolievich Medvedev is offering his services maybe to get rid of Putin. Please arm him, send him a drone. Did you notice how Putin's security or, Putin's double, Putin's triple in St. Petersburg was walking around with anti-drone systems? Didn't you notice? They showed it for everyone to see, how they were carrying mini drones in their hands. Soon they'll be carrying bazookas like Schwarzenegger. Already there are portable toilets, armored limousines, armored trains, different motorcades, different planes, anti-drone systems. Soon they'll be carrying a bronze Putin around. You get it? Inflatable ships and Vladimir Putin's residences and houses burned to the ground. Well, he's already lost his mind, gone completely crazy over there. But further, you see, let them keep blackmailing. First of all, Trump has Medvedev on his radar. He said as much in St. Petersburg. If he writes something like that again, he'll regret it. I think Trump has the power, the means, and the ability to make sure such statements aren't made anymore. He sent nuclear weapons to Europe, after all. Russia will try to do something, make some noise, maybe try to conduct some exercises. The Americans will conduct exercises like that all around the perimeter of the Russian Federation. They'll scare Putin so much somewhere near Leningrad. They'll block the Danish Straits. They'll cut off all flows of sanctioned goods. China will ditch Putin. they'll make a deal with the Chinese, and together with the Japanese, they'll give Putin a big surprise near the Kuril Island. You'll find it very interesting and entertaining. Notice, the most crucial thing that's happened recently is that Trump took the Caucasus, Azerbaijan and Armenia away from Putin. I think he'll take Georgia too. In what sense will he take it? He just took it and brought it into the American orbit, away from Moscow. So what? And where? And was Putin able to do that? Number. And what else did Trump do together with the Turks, with the NATO member country? They just took Syria away from Putin and took the Middle East away from him too. Now they're about to squeeze Libya out of Putin's hands in Africa. They'll wipe out all the mercenaries there to hell in just a few years. The Russian ones. Another one, and what about Iran? How's it going? Did Vladimir Putin help? Iran has been riddled like a sieve. Iran and its nuclear weapons, those bomb-9 bombs they were so proud of, threatening the whole world, especially Israel and the States. So where is it all now? Where is it all? And yesterday, Trump also said, we will keep striking Iran and their nuclear facilities. In other words, Putin has lost a lot over the past weeks, over the past months, and in the next 6 months, he will lose all his opportunities in the Ukrainian direction. And he will lose them in Belarus as well. It's not for nothing that he went to Belarus. His negotiations, his separate talks with Lukashenko were about Lukashenko turning away from Putin by 180 degrees and shifting toward Trump. And he will betray this Vladimir Putin. And he will betray this Vladimir Putin. So Medvedev can say whatever he wants, anything he wants. Medvedev's problem isn't that he became an alcoholic. Medvedev's problem isn't just that he could have become president a second time, could have made it so that Putin was no longer in Russia, and could have saved his country from disgrace. Medvedev's problem is something else. Medvedev's problem is that his life hangs by a thread, that nobody there needs him, that he's worse than Zhirinovsky, that he's a clown. But he's an unfunny clown, an untalented clown, a mediocre clown. And Medvedev's problem is that Putin doesn't need him, and nobody in Russia needs him either. That he's just a prop, a facade that can easily be moved, replaced, destroyed, and so on. Essentially, he's become a nobody, even though he could have been everything in the Russian Federation, playing on the tablet that Barack Obama gave him. And now Donald Trump simply, he won't do anything with Medvedev, but he will do a lot of things regarding Russia. And neither Putin nor Medvedev nor the elite will like that. And I'm sure, Dasha, that we'll see the day when Medvedev will be among the conspirators trying to remove Vladimir Putin from power. Because Putin won't leave anyone. None of the old cronies will be left. Not Medvedev, not Shoigu, not any of these ministers, not any of these nullified oligarchs. No one. There will be no one left. It will either be Putin or there will be no Putin.
I've prepared 2 topics for you for the finale. In short, Russia has banned gasoline exports until the end of August. The decision is related to a shortage in the domestic market due to complications at refineries caused by drone attacks and sanctions. Bloomberg.
But before they had an agreement, a pact, in fact, between all the directors, all the owners of the refineries, and directly all those gas stations across Russia, that they would keep prices at the level of inflation and not raise them. There was always artificial price setting there. And what do they have now? What do they have now? Didn't Putin order them to keep inflation in check? So it turns out they need to raise prices, but they can't do anything. So exporting is unprofitable. There will soon be a fuel crisis in Russia, a fuel crisis. And if Ukraine continues to strike oil refineries, especially in the central region, the Moscow region, the central regions of Russia, where the major refineries are concentrated not in the south, but the big ones in the north and center of the Russian Federation, then it will definitely get very heated. In that case, there will be no need for any hacker attacks on Aeroflot. It will simply come to a halt because there won't be any fuel. And there won't be any fuel at Russian gas stations either. And people will be running around with jerry cans, with metal cans, scrambling for 10 or 20 liters, refueling from each other. And they'll be looking for all sorts of bootleg mixers, diluting them and so on. You understand? There's nothing good about that. This is a crisis, it's growing, it's escalating, and the mess is just getting bigger and bigger. But it would be better if they weren't so worried about gasoline and whether to export it or not. It would be better if they exported their own Valentina Ivanovna Matvienko instead. She just visited Geneva for her parliamentary congress. They supposedly tried to silence her there. You guys you're getting on everyone's nerves already. You just sit there, One moment you invite conductor Gergiev, then you invite Matvienko along with Slatsky and other sanctioned comrades from the Russian Duma, that so-called State Duma. Just come down over there already. Ukraine needs weapons, not Matvienko in Geneva. What the hell is she even doing in Geneva, this Vakastak? They're all alcoholics. Seriously, just think about it. Medvedev is an alcoholic. He's drunk himself into oblivion. Matvienko is always drinking. Everyone has cancer. They're all drunk and they're all scared. Putin is the only one who doesn't drink, and he's destroying everyone over there in Russia. It's insane. It's unbelievable how far they've dragged the country down.
I'll just finish by saying that Russia has finally found an impressive way to fight drones. Only the sound of church bells seems to work against them. Artemy Vladimirov, a proto-priest, called the ringing of church bells the best way to fight Ukrainian drones.
Let me give you the recipe very briefly. Send all those guys in cassocks, the security officers, together with the bells under the Kremlin, let them ring away. Exactly. Let them ring for a day and Putin will finally lose his mind. Right under all his portable toilets, under all his residents, take the bells and hold a procession there together with Gundiev. With Gundiev in the Kremlin, just keep ringing nonstop until he finally goes completely mad from all that noise. If it really helps against drones, and in St. Petersburg too, take them there, take everything. You don't need any anti-missile systems, just send everything to Rubliovka. No need for anti-missiles for the Kremlin, for St. Petersburg. Nothing. No need to protect Palace Square. Bells. Bells. Send the Archpriest there, send Gundiev there, and keep ringing. Just keep ringing. And watch the drones. Watch the drones and watch the fireworks.
And only the ringing of church bells will save Russia from Tomahawks, Jasmines, Tauruses, and the Long Neptune.
And do you know who will be the last to ring the bell? Donald Trump. He himself, just wait. You'll have the bells ringing in 10 days. It'll sound really good, loud enough for all of Ivanovskaya Square to hear. You understand? From Prechistenka, it will start and go all the way to Malaya Bronaya.
Friends, Sasha and I will definitely discuss Trump's final bell as well. That will happen soon. I'm sure our next episode will be dedicated to it.
Evening bells, remember? Amazing. Yes?
I'm sure Sasha will even sing in the next episode, so stay tuned. Friends, please like this video. Write a few kind words in the comments to support our duo. Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha, coming soon to our screens. Dasha plus Sasha. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.